Hi guys, welcome back. Steve here from Guitar Evolutions, and we are continuing with our series on making connections between certain musical concepts that, at least in my humble opinion, make understanding how the guitar and music work a lot easier. And it enables you to more quickly learn newer concepts as they come your way, instead of just grabbing ideas from here, there, and everywhere. So, we're going to look into that right after this. So if you recall in video 1, we were looking at the C major scale, which just serves as our model. Any major scale would work, to look at the structure of how it's built and therefore how it sounds, and do this just on one string for now. We're not trying to move across the strings like you usually see people doing. We're doing it up and down the string, and it was simply this idea. Second string, starting on a C note, and here we go. And as usual, it's good to come back down. So that sound is the sound of major. And as I've said previously, and you can check the video up over here where I talk about these ideas a little bit more in depth, that knowing the major scale will fundamentally enable you to really grasp a whole bunch of ideas, complex ones too, on how music works. So if you're out and about searching for stuff and you come across something you want to use, you can relate what you're learning in that concept back to the major scale. Sure, sometimes the concepts get really far apart from one another, and it would take a little bit of reverse engineering to figure out how this thing is connected back to that major scale. But the principle still holds true. It just takes a little bit more experience to be able to figure that out, but we're not there yet. So I'm encouraging you to know that major scale, know the interval structure of it in terms of whole tones and semitones, and most importantly, get the sound of it in your mind. That's basically what we did in video 1. Video 2, we looked at the C major scale's relative minor scale. Same notes, starting on A instead of C, and we ended up with this sound off of the third string, starting on an A note. And back down. I just like to throw in those little musical trilly things once in a while. Today, what I want to do is give you some insight into how people make up perhaps little tiny licks, and having a way of understanding what notes to grab to make those licks. Now you have some options here. You could just wait for somebody to give you a lick, and then away you go in whatever key you're working in. And it will sound fine, and everything's working, and as long as your rhythm is good, you're golden. But you still kind of don't know what you're doing. You're just mimicking something that was shown to you. That's not the habit that I want to cultivate. That's not why this channel exists. It exists to give you some enlightenment, I guess, a good word for it, about where things are coming from, how they fit together, and how they make sense when they fit together. So here's an idea. If we took the C major scale, and I'll just play the first 3 notes of it. Again, reference back to the first video. And then took the relative minor scale, the A minor. Remember, these 2 scales have exactly the same notes. This is the key feature to keep in mind here. This relative major minor connection is a very important one in music. If I just take the first 3 notes of that scale, A, B, and C, and of course you need to know them, where they're located, on your fretboard. So to some extent right now anyway, there's a mild assumption that you have an awareness of where some of these notes are located. It's not just a string and a fret, it's a note. It's the notes coming together, getting connected, that enable musicians to sit down and figure out what combination of notes they could play over a certain chord or combination of chords. It's not a random process. And it really shouldn't be just, here's a lick for you, Steve, go away and practice that, and then use it over, a certain minor chord. I won't argue against doing that at the very, very beginning, but I wouldn't stay there very long at all. So if I bring these 2 clusters of notes together and I play them at the same time, I get this kind of a sound. I'm going to play the A note from A minor and the C note from C major and play them together. There's the sound of it. Now if I continue up each of their respective scale tones, I get this sound. And again, I'm just going up the first 3 notes. That's it. Now I can keep on going. If I chose to, but I don't want to complicate things right now. Just the first 3 scale degrees. Now let's say you're meeting up with some friends after school, and I'm assuming we're all in high school still, and you're just going to jam. And someone in the group is going to pull out an A minor chord, do something with it, and then they look at you with the intent of saying, okay, Steve, do something over that chord. Most people are going to grab, because it's an A minor chord, most people are instinctively going to grab their A minor pentatonic scale, which will work. But that connection for most people is just a mechanical one. It's this chord, and their instinct says match it up with that scale, and it works. So there's no reason to argue against it, other than the fact that they're not quite sure why the 2 fit together, other than they're called A minor or something. And again, knowing the major scale and ultimately the relative minor scale will help you understand how these 2 concepts, a chord and a scale, fit so nicely together that they become, in a way, the default soloing tool. But we're not going to think about that. We're going to think about the actual structure of the scales themselves as they relate to a particular chord. And I do have a backing track to demonstrate this process for you. So here again are the notes, A and C, B and D, C and E. Someone is playing the chord. Couldn't you just now, with this knowledge, chime in and go, you don't have to start down here, you can start anywhere you like. The instinct to keep going further is very strong, right? All of a sudden, instead of waiting for somebody to go and show you how to do something like this, you're just grabbing them because you understand the connection between the chord and the scales. There's two of them that are coming out of the awareness of the key of C major, because every major scale has a relative minor. Depending on how you want to think about these little lick moments, you can perceive them from the C major side of things, or you can perceive them from the A minor side of things. It's up to you, however your brain works. But the bottom line is, you get something like this. Right? And nobody had to show you how to do it. You have the knowledge as a musician to be able to do this yourself. I hope that makes sense. So, I'm going to put on the backing track and play along with it just to demonstrate some possibilities here. Because at this point, once you get that stuff together, the scale, the chord, or the chords, and you understand the relationships between them, it allows you to dig in with the creative side of things rather than the mechanical and the technical side of things. So, give me a moment, I'll cue up the track, and away we go. This is just an A minor backing track. Sometimes it goes to F. It's mostly A minor. So what you saw there was simply me visualizing, just starting small at first, visualizing a bit of C major, mostly, a bit of A minor, and using that idea to unite the two sounds together to harmonize little melodies. And of course, the process, ideally, you would want to be able to do that up and down the neck, just like this. And back down. If you think about this for a moment, not only could you do that, but if you did have some background with your A minor pentatonic scale, whichever form of it that you're comfortable with, or the C major scale, you could introduce elements of both of those into the same jam session, or in this case, a backing track. The possibilities begin to start exploding once you understand how things are connected. So let's review that connection. We started with a C major scale. Ideally, you're spending some time remembering the note names, but at minimum, you're remembering the interval distances between the notes. C to D in the C major scale. C to D is a whole tone, D to E, whole tone, E to F, semitone, F to G, whole tone, G to A, whole tone, A to B, whole tone, B to C. Take the same structure, but just start it on an A note, which we found on the 3rd string, 2nd fret, and you've got a different sound. A to B, whole tone, B to C, semitone, C to D, whole tone, D to E, whole tone, E to F, semitone, F to G, whole tone, and finally G to A. It sounds different, but it's the exact same structure, just kind of inverted. That's just a cool idea to me. When I realized that as a youngster, that was like, my, so much possibility there. Blend that knowledge in with perhaps some knowledge you have already of minor pentatonic scale or the C major scale, maybe as a played in position. Maybe you learned it C major like this. Use it. Make some music with it. Blend things together. Use the A minor, if you're familiar with it. Pentatonic, that is. I could do the exact same thing over the backing track, just noodling those two ideas. But it's nice to make little tiny melodies once in a while. Maybe a better term for it would be licks, right? And typically in between chords. That seems to be a very popular way of playing that people want to get access to. So if I took an A minor chord, an F and a G, I could still use this idea and use that as a pool of notes that I can rely on to make some licks in between chords. Maybe it goes something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. You're drawing on that stuff to help fill in the lick. And you don't need anybody to show you how to do it. What you get to do, which is way more fun, is sit with that idea and then hopefully come up with something really, really cool that you like. And of course, like anything else in music, the more you do it, the better you get at it. And the more you do it, one of my dogs is here right now, the more you do it, the more it sort of comes out of you instinctively without having to really deeply think on it a lot. I'm hoping that makes sense. So once again, I'm going to leave you with the backing track that you can access in the notes below the video. Check out the other videos, number 1, number 2, before you watch this one, because obviously everything's connected. And of course, stay tuned for the next video, where we're constantly going to take things a bit further based on things we're already good at. So you do want to get good at this. And you do want to be good at, that's C major and A minor. And you want to have some comfort blending the two together. In order for the next video to start making a bit more sense. So, obviously too, one final point, in order to make all of this sound musical, rhythmic awareness has to be part of your playing. I'm not just kind of I might be doing that at the beginning, but at some point you have to come up with your own rhythmic ideas. And if you feel you're having a bit of trouble with the rhythm side of things, why not check out the STRUM Hub, my membership, which involves helping people learn to do rhythm by ear. You don't have to be able to read music. I do introduce people to a little bit of reading rhythm, but mostly what we're interested in is grabbing a tune you want to play, exploring what the chords are. They're going to be a given, and then listen deeply into the tune to help figure out how we might strum along with it. That may be of benefit to you in this process. So if you're interested in that, I'll leave a link below where you can access the STRUM Hub at a discounted rate. If you're interested in it, the regular is $27 a month. You would have access to it for $19 a month. Who knows? We could become best friends, because I do a lot of live work with all the students that are in the STRUM Hub. You get access to me sometimes weekly, minimally once a month. Depends on what we're working on and how much effort and time we need to put in on it. Anyway, that's there for you to decide. Steve Dempster, Dempster Guitar Evolutions. Have some fun with making little licks, little melodies by harmonizing a C major scale or harmonizing an A minor scale. Talk to you soon. Bye.